I died at 27 in a car accident that wasn't an accident at all. My husband Ethan was driving, texting his assistant Melissa about their upcoming trip to Hawaii. The trip I'd paid for with my inheritance money. He didn't see the truck until it was too late. The last thing I heard before impact was Ethan's voice on speakerphone. "Don't worry, I'll tell her it's a conference. She's too jealous to understand professional relationships anyway." My name is Rachel Morgan, and for 5 years I gave my husband everything. My inheritance, my career, my identity, while he systematically transferred it all to the woman he claimed was just a colleague. Every time I questioned their relationship, he called me jealous. Every time I asked about money, he called me controlling. Every time I expressed hurt, he called me dramatic. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't in heaven or a morgue. I was 22, sitting in a coffee shop across from Ethan Harper on our third date, watching him charm me with that practiced smile I'd once found irresistible. This time, I knew exactly what that smile cost. "So Rachel," Ethan said, leaning forward with rehearsed intimacy, "tell me about your family. I want to know everything about you." In my previous life, I'd found this romantic, proof he cared. Now I understood what he was really asking. "Do you have money? Are you worth the investment?" "My family's ordinary," I said, taking a sip of coffee. "My parents are teachers. We're comfortable but not wealthy." This was a lie. My grandmother had left me a trust fund accessible at 25. In my previous timeline, I'd told Ethan about it on our 5th date, watching his eyes light up with interest I'd mistaken for love. "That's wonderful," Ethan said, recovering quickly. "I grew up with very little. I really admire people who appreciate what they have." The irony would have been laughable if it weren't so calculated. Ethan came from a solidly middle-class family, and had manufactured his struggling background to make women want to take care of him. "What about you?" I asked. "What do you do?" "I'm in marketing. Between positions right now, looking for the right opportunity. I'm very selective about company culture." Translation: he was unemployed and looking for someone to bankroll him. "Smart," I said neutrally, taking time to find the right fit. Ethan smiled, but I could see him recalculating. Without the promise of money, I was less interesting. "Good. You know, Rachel, I have to be honest. I usually don't connect with women this quickly, but there's something different about you. Something real." In my previous life, these words had made my heart race. Now they made my skin crawl. "That's sweet," I said, checking my phone. "But I should get going. Early shift tomorrow." Confusion flickered across his face. In our original timeline, I'd been the one reluctant to leave. This version was supposed to be easy. Already? I was hoping we could grab dinner. My treat. "I really do need to go." I stood, gathering my things. "Thanks for the coffee. Can I see you again?" The question had an edge of desperation. "Maybe. I'll text you." I never did. Over the next week, Ethan called and texted repeatedly. His messages evolved from casual to confused to slightly aggressive. I blocked his number after. I don't usually pursue women who play games. 3 weeks later, I got a recruitment email from a major design agency in Seattle. In my previous timeline, I'd deleted it, staying in my hometown where Ethan lived. Without office structure, I'd become isolated, financially dependent, completely under his control. This time I applied. My roommate Sarah watched me pack for the interview. "You're different lately. More decisive." "I'm trying to make better choices." "Does this have anything to do with Ethan? He came by yesterday looking for you. Seemed surprised when I said you were moving to Seattle. Got kind of weird about it. Asked a lot about your finances and family." My blood ran cold. "What did you tell him?" "Nothing. I got bad vibes, so I said you were just my roommate and I didn't know your personal business." Sarah paused. "Rachel, should I be worried?" "No. But thank you for not giving him information. If he comes back, don't engage. Maybe mention you heard I was dating someone seriously in Seattle." "Are you?" "No. But he doesn't need to know that." The Seattle interview went perfectly. They offered me a position with nearly double my current salary. I accepted immediately. Moving across the country felt like shedding a skin I'd been trapped in. For 6 months, I threw myself into work, made friends, joined a gym, rediscovered hobbies I'd abandoned. I didn't think about Ethan at all. Then my phone rang with an unknown number. Rachel? It's Ethan. I can't believe you just disappeared. No goodbye, no explanation. I thought we had something special. We went on 3 dates. That's not special. That's barely acquainted. Don't be like that. I really liked you. I still do. I'm actually going to be in Seattle next week for business. I'd love to take you to dinner. I'm not interested. Come on, don't be jealous that I didn't chase you immediately. I had things to work through, but I'm ready now. Ready to give us a real chance. The word jealous made my skin prickle. I'm not jealous, Ethan. I'm uninterested. Don't call again. I hung up and blocked the number. But Ethan wasn't done. Over the next month, he created multiple social media accounts to message me, sent emails to my work account, had flowers delivered to my office with notes about not giving up on us. Each message had the same theme. I was making a mistake. We were meant to be together. I was letting my jealousy ruin something beautiful. Finally, I did something I'd never had the courage to do in my previous life. I filed for a restraining order. The officer taking my statement was a woman in her 40s with kind eyes. This pattern is classic. The love bombing, the persistence after rejection, the financial questions, the accusations of jealousy. This man is testing boundaries. Can a restraining order actually stop him? It creates a legal record and consequences if he violates it. Document everything, save all messages, emails, any contact. If he escalates, call us immediately. She handed me her card. Trust your instincts. The restraining order was granted. Ethan was served papers at an apartment he was sharing with a woman named Jennifer. For 3 months, Ethan stayed quiet. I started to relax. Then Jennifer messaged me on Facebook. Hi Rachel, I hope you don't mind me reaching out. Ethan told me about you, that you dated briefly and it ended badly. He said you became obsessed, and he had to get a restraining order against you for stalking. My vision tunneled. Of course he'd flipped the narrative. That's not what happened. I got the restraining order against him because he wouldn't stop contacting me after I made it clear I wasn't interested. He's been harassing me for months. That's not what he told me. He showed me messages that seemed pretty clingy. Those messages don't exist because I never sent them. Jennifer, I don't know you, but please be careful. Do you live together? Does he have access to your finances? Long pause. Why would you ask about finances? Because that's his pattern. He targets women with resources and slowly takes control, while making them feel crazy for questioning him. Please check your credit, verify any accounts, don't give him access to anything you can't afford to lose. This is crazy. You're the jealous ex he warned me about. Don't contact me again. She blocked me. I stared at the screen, feeling sick. I tried to warn her and now I was the villain. But what else could I do? 2 months later, Jennifer messaged from a different account. You were right. About everything. He drained my bank account, maxed out my credit cards, and when I confronted him, he said I was being paranoid and jealous. I only figured it out when my bank called about suspicious activity. He's gone now, moved out while I was at work and took half my furniture. Police say it's a civil matter because I gave him access. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. I'm sorry he did this to you. Are you okay? Not really. But I'm pressing charges for identity theft on the credit cards. The detective says there are 2 other women who filed similar complaints. They're building a case. Cold satisfaction settled in my chest. Finally, consequences. Let me know if I can help. I'll testify if needed. Thank you. And Rachel? He talks about you constantly. He's obsessed with the fact that you got away. Be careful. The warning made my skin prickle, but I tried not to let it consume me. I had a good life in Seattle. Ethan was imploding back home, and I was safe here. Then my boss called me into her office. Rachel, we need to talk about something sensitive. We received a concerning email from someone claiming to be your ex-boyfriend. He made serious allegations about your character and mental stability. My heart stopped. What did he say? He claimed you stole proprietary information from your previous employer, that you've been stalking him for years, and that you have a history of unstable behavior. Michelle held up her hand. I'm telling you because it's obviously false, and I wanted you to know so you can take legal action. How do you know it's false? Because we do thorough background checks, and yours came back clean. Because I've worked with you for nearly a year, and you're one of our most professional designers. And because this email was clearly an attempt at manipulation. She pulled out a printed copy. Look at the language. It's designed to make you seem hysterical and obsessed. Classic defamation. I took the email, my hands trembling as I read Ethan's words, painting me as unstable, jealous, dangerous. He's trying to destroy my career. He's trying, but he won't succeed. I've forwarded this to legal. They're considering a defamation suit. Michelle's expression softened. Is there anything else you need? Security resources support. I have a restraining order, but he keeps finding ways around it. Absolutely a violation. Legal is documenting everything. We're also implementing security measures. He'll be flagged if he tries to access our building. That evening, I called the police officer whose card I'd kept. She connected me with a detective who specialized in stalking cases. Based on what you're describing, this man is escalating, Detective Morrison told me. The restraining order violations, the employment interference, the defamation campaign. These are signs he's becoming more obsessed and desperate. What can I do? Document everything which you're doing. We'll work with Seattle PD to coordinate surveillance if he shows up. And I recommend you consult with a security specialist about personal safety. You think he'd physically come after me? I think he's demonstrated a pattern of not accepting boundaries or consequences. Better to be prepared. The security consultant taught me to vary my routes home. Be aware of my surroundings, trust my instincts. He installed a better lock on my apartment and gave me a personal safety alarm. I hated that Ethan had invaded my life again. But I refused to let him win by making me live in fear. Then everything fell apart. I was reviewing a major client presentation when Michelle called me into her office. Her face was grim. Rachel, sit down. We have a serious problem. My stomach dropped. What happened? Ethan sent a mass email to our entire client list. He claimed to be your concerned ex-boyfriend, warning them that you're unstable and have stolen client information in the past. 3 clients have already called asking if the allegations are true. The room spun. He can't, that's defamation. It's worse than defamation. He included fabricated documents that look like internal emails from you discussing selling client data. They're fake, obviously, but convincing enough that our clients are spooked. Michelle's expression was pained. Legal is all over this, but Rachel, I need to put you on administrative leave while we sort this out. You're suspending me? My voice came out broken. Not suspending, protecting. If you're actively working on client accounts while we're defending against these allegations, it looks like we're not taking it seriously. Once legal clears you and we've dealt with the defamation, you'll be back. Full pay, benefits continue. But I can't have you in client meetings right now. I walked out of that office feeling like I was drowning. Ethan had finally found a way to hurt me that I couldn't immediately counter. My career, the one thing I'd built entirely on my own, the foundation of my new life, was under attack. That night, I sat in my apartment and did something I hadn't done since being reborn. I cried. Not quiet tears, but ugly, gasping sobs that shook my entire body. Everything I'd done to escape Ethan, every boundary I'd set, every legal measure I'd taken, none of it was enough. He was still finding ways to destroy me. My phone rang. Sarah, my old roommate. Rachel, oh my God, are you okay? Ethan showed up at our old apartment looking for you. When I told him you didn't live here anymore, he got aggressive. Started screaming about how you ruined his life, how you turned everyone against him. The police came. He's in custody, but I'm freaking out. Sarah, I'm so sorry. Don't apologize. This isn't your fault. But Rachel, he's completely unstable. The things he was saying about you. He genuinely believes you're responsible for everything bad in his life, that you orchestrated some conspiracy against him. After we hung up, I sat in the dark and faced a truth I'd been avoiding. Running wasn't enough. Legal measures weren't enough. Ethan wasn't going to stop until he'd destroyed me completely, or until something forced him to stop. I thought about my previous life. How I'd died without ever fighting back, without ever standing up for myself, without ever believing I deserved better than his treatment. This time, I'd been so focused on escape that I'd forgotten something crucial. Predators don't stop hunting just because you run. Sometimes you have to turn and fight. The next morning, I called Detective Morrison. I want to press charges for everything. The harassment, the defamation, the fake documents, all of it. And I want to go public with his pattern. I want every woman he might target in the future to know what he is. That's a big step. Are you sure? I'm sure. He's escalated because he knows I'm isolated. He thinks if he can destroy my career and my reputation, I'll have nowhere left to run. But I'm done running. Morrison was quiet for a moment. Okay, let me make some calls. And Rachel, you're doing the right thing. Over the next week, things moved fast. Jennifer agreed to testify. 2 other victims came forward. Women Ethan had financially exploited before me. Legal experts examined the fabricated documents and traced them back to Ethan's IP address. My company's legal team filed a massive defamation suit. But Ethan escalated further. I was leaving my apartment one morning when I saw him across the street, watching me. When our eyes met, he smiled, not the charming smile from our dates, but something cold and calculating. My hand went to the panic button. Building security appeared within seconds, but Ethan didn't run. He just stood there, staring, until police cars pulled up. Rachel, don't be dramatic, he called out as officers approached. I just want to talk. You have a restraining order. You're not allowed within 500 feet. That's a misunderstanding. I was in the area for business. You live 800 miles away. This isn't a misunderstanding, it's stalking. As they arrested him, his expression shifted from confident to panicked to enraged. This is your fault, he screamed. Everything was fine until you. You made everyone think I'm some kind of monster. You're the problem. You ruined my life. I watched them put him in the patrol car, feeling nothing but cold clarity. This was who he'd always been. The anger, the blame, the refusal to accept responsibility. I hadn't created this version of him. I just stopped enabling the mask. Detective Morrison called the next day. He's been charged with stalking, multiple restraining order violations, harassment, and wire fraud for the fake documents. Between Jennifer's case, your documentation, and the arrest yesterday, we have a strong case. His bail is set high because he's a flight risk and demonstrated he'll cross state lines. What happens now? He'll likely take a plea deal. With his record and the evidence, he's looking at jail time and probation. More importantly, this creates a permanent record. 2 weeks later, I was reinstated at work. Michelle called me into her office with good news. All clients had been satisfied with the investigation results. Legal had demolished Ethan's defamation campaign, and I was being promoted to senior designer with a raise. You handled this with incredible professionalism, Michelle said. Most people would have fallen apart. You stayed focused, documented everything, trusted the process. That's leadership quality. But the victory felt hollow. I was safe, my career was intact, Ethan was facing consequences, but I was exhausted. The constant vigilance, the legal battles, the fear. It had taken a toll I hadn't fully acknowledged. That evening, I went to a support group for stalking victims that Detective Morrison had recommended. I'd resisted before, thinking I didn't need it, but now I understood that surviving wasn't the same as healing. There were 8 women in the room, all with similar stories. Different details, same pattern. Men who couldn't accept rejection, who escalated when they lost control, who blamed their victims for the consequences of their own actions. The hardest part, one woman said, is that he made me doubt my own reality for so long. Even now, when I know intellectually that his behavior was wrong, part of me still hears his voice saying I'm overreacting. I'm being jealous, I'm the problem. Heads nodded around the circle, including mine. That's the insidious part, the group facilitator said. Abusers don't just hurt you physically or financially. They try to colonize your mind, make you doubt your own perceptions. Healing means reclaiming that territory. Over the next months, I attended the group weekly. I started therapy. I learned to recognize the difference between appropriate caution and hypervigilance, between setting boundaries and building walls. And slowly, I started to believe something I'd been telling myself without truly feeling it. This wasn't my fault. Ethan's trial was scheduled for 6 months later. In the meantime, he violated his bail conditions by trying to contact another woman he'd dated briefly. Back to jail, bail revoked. Jennifer and I met for coffee the week before the trial. "I've been thinking about writing about this," she said. "Not for attention or revenge, but because when I tried to research warning signs of financial abuse, I couldn't find much that described what he did. Everything was about married couples or long-term relationships. Nothing about how quickly it can happen with someone you've only known a few months." "You should write it," I said. "I'll contribute if you want." The more women who recognize these patterns early, the fewer of us end up where we did. "Would you really?" Because I was thinking, what if we started a website? A resource specifically about financial predators who use romantic relationships as cover. Real stories, warning signs, legal resources. I thought about my previous life, about dying without ever understanding what had been done to me, about all the women who were probably going through it right now, thinking they were the problem, that they were too jealous or too controlling or too dramatic. Yes, let's do it. The trial came. I testified about Ethan's harassment, the fake documents, the career sabotage. Jennifer testified about the financial exploitation. The other victims told their stories. Ethan's lawyer tried to paint him as a man whose life had spiraled after losing the love of his life. Me. Said his obsession was born from genuine heartbreak. The prosecutor shut it down immediately, presenting evidence of Ethan's pattern with at least 6 different women over 8 years. "This wasn't love," the prosecutor said. "This was predation with a romantic veneer." The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. 2 years in prison, 3 years supervised probation, mandatory counseling, permanent restraining orders for all victims. When the judge handed down the sentence, Ethan's eyes found mine across the courtroom. For a moment, I saw genuine shock. He'd never truly believed there would be consequences. As they led him away, I felt something shift. Not victory exactly, just closure. The man who'd taken everything from me in one timeline had nothing of me in this one. 6 months after the trial, Jennifer and I launched the website. We called it Jealous or Justified, reclaiming the word Ethan had weaponized against us. Within a month, we had hundreds of submissions from women sharing their own stories. Within 3 months, we'd been featured in major news outlets. Within 6 months, we'd helped 53 women recognize warning signs in their own relationships and get out before financial damage occurred. I was in the office, a small shared space Jennifer and I rented for the website work, when someone knocked on the door. A man in his mid-30s stood there, looking nervous. "Hi, I'm David Chun. I work at the Seattle Times. I was wondering if I could interview you about the website for a feature we're doing on digital advocacy." Over coffee, David asked thoughtful questions about the project, about my experience, about the legal process. He didn't sensationalize the story or push for traumatic details. He was just interested in the work itself. "Can I ask you something off the record?" he said as we were wrapping up. "Sure. How do you trust again? After something like what you went through, how do you open yourself up to the possibility of a relationship?" "Honestly, I'm not sure I'm there yet. Maybe I never will be. But I've learned to trust myself again, and that feels more important." David nodded. "That's a good answer. Better than good, actually. It's real." His article came out 2 weeks later. It was fair, well-researched, and compassionate without being patronizing. He'd captured the essence of what we were trying to do without turning us into either victims or heroes. Just people doing necessary work. He emailed me after it published. "Thanks for being so honest in the interview. Would you want to grab dinner sometime? Not for work, just dinner." I stared at the email for a long time. Every instinct I'd developed over the past year screamed caution. Red flags. Warning signs. Protect yourself. But then I thought about what I'd learned in therapy. There's a difference between being careful and being closed off. Between setting boundaries and building prisons. I wrote back. Dinner sounds good. But I should tell you up front. I'm very cautious about dating. I have a complicated history. If that's too much, I understand. His response. Complicated is fine. We can go at whatever pace works for you. We went to dinner. Then coffee. Then a walk through the city. David was patient with my boundaries, respectful when I needed space, understanding when I explained I wasn't ready for certain steps yet. 3 months in, we were sitting on his couch watching a movie when he paused it. I need to tell you something, he said. My heart rate spiked. Here it comes. The other shoe dropping. The hidden agenda. I looked you up when I was researching the article. I found all the court records, all the details about what Ethan did. And I want you to know that I'm aware of the full story, and it doesn't change how I see you. If anything, it makes me respect you more. You researched me? For the article, initially. Then I kept reading because I wanted to understand what you'd been through. I probably should have told you sooner, but I didn't want you to think I was approaching you with preconceptions or pity. I sat with this information, trying to parse whether it felt like a violation or like honesty. Are you angry? David asked. I don't know. It's all public record, so you didn't do anything wrong exactly. But it feels strange that you know things about me that I haven't chosen to share. That's fair. I'm sorry if I overstepped. I wanted to know if there were any triggers I should be aware of, any topics to avoid, ways I might accidentally cause harm. I looked at him, at the genuine concern on his face, and felt something unexpected. Relief. Thank you for telling me, and for trying to be considerate. That matters. 6 months into dating David, I got a call from Detective Morrison. Ethan violated his probation. Tried to contact another woman, similar pattern to yours. He's back in jail, and they're talking about extending his sentence. I hung up and stared at my phone. Part of me felt vindicated. Proof that his behavior had nothing to do with me specifically, that I wasn't special or different or the one who drove him to it. He was simply a predator who moved from target to target. But another part of me felt sad for whoever that new woman was, for whoever she might have been if Ethan had succeeded in isolating and exploiting her. That evening, I told David about the call. How do you feel about it? He asked. Tired. Just tired of him having any space in my head. Tired of waiting for the next violation, the next escalation. I want to be done thinking about him. So stop. What? Stop thinking about him. He's in jail. He can't hurt you. He's not your responsibility to monitor or worry about. Let him be someone else's problem to manage. It was such a simple suggestion, but it felt revolutionary. For nearly 3 years, both lifetimes combined, Ethan had occupied mental space I'd never questioned giving him. Even in running from him, fighting him, protecting myself from him, I'd been organized around him. I don't know how to just stop. Start small. When you think about him, acknowledge it and then redirect. Like meditation. You can't stop thoughts from arising, but you can choose which ones you feed attention. It took months, but gradually, Ethan became background noise instead of a primary focus. I stopped checking for updates on his case. I stopped scanning crowds for his face. I stopped flinching at unknown phone numbers. 1 year after his trial, I married David in a small ceremony with just close friends and family. Jennifer was my maid of honor. Sarah came from across the country. My parents, who'd been supportive through everything, cried happy tears. At the reception, Jennifer pulled me aside. I'm proud of you, you know, for letting yourself have this. Have what? Joy. Love. Trust. After everything he did, after how hard you fought just to survive, you still found a way to be happy. That's not nothing. 2 years into my marriage, I was pregnant with our first child when Detective Morrison called one last time. Ethan died in prison yesterday. Another inmate. I wanted you to hear it from me before it hit the news. I sat down heavily. How do I feel about this? However you feel is valid. Relief, sadness, nothing, all of it makes sense. After we hung up, I called Jennifer. He's dead, I told her. Good, she said immediately. Then softer. Is that wrong? To be glad he's dead? I don't know. I don't feel glad exactly. I feel unburdened. like a weight I didn't realize I was still carrying just lifted. That's enough. You don't have to manufacture grief for someone who tried to destroy you. That evening, David held me while I cried, not for Ethan, but for everything he'd represented. The younger version of myself who'd died in a car crash. The years I'd spent believing I was the problem. All the women he'd hurt. The future victims he'd never get to claim. It's over, David said. Really truly over. And it was. 3 years after Ethan's trial, 5 years after I'd walked away from that coffee shop, the website Jennifer and I started had helped over 3,000 women recognize and escape financial predators. We'd testified before state legislatures about closing legal loopholes that let people like Ethan operate. We'd trained bank employees to recognize signs of coercive financial control. I was at my desk working on a new resource guide when my assistant knocked. "There's someone here to see you," says her name is Melissa. My blood froze. Melissa, Ethan's affair partner from my previous life. The woman he'd been texting when we crashed. She walked in looking nothing like I'd imagined her. Small, nervous, very young. "I know you don't know me," she started. "But I needed to thank you. I was dating Ethan when you got the restraining order. I thought you were the crazy jealous ex he'd described. But watching how he reacted to losing access to you, seeing his escalation, it made me look at our relationship differently." "You were with him?" "For 2 months. He was charming at first, then controlling. After your trial, I read everything. Realized he'd been doing the same things to me. Financial isolation, gaslighting, love bombing alternating with coldness. I got out before it got really bad, but only because you went public with your story." I stared at her, this woman who'd been Ethan's affair partner in one timeline, and his victim in another. "I'm glad you got out. I'm in therapy now, learning about trauma bonds and why I'm attracted to men like that. It's hard work, but I'm doing it." She paused. "I just wanted you to know that your website, your willingness to talk about this publicly, it saves people. It saved me." After she left, I sat at my desk and thought about the infinite variations of lives lived. In one timeline, Melissa had been the woman Ethan chose over me. In this one, she was just another woman who'd recognized the warning signs in time. That evening, I went home to David and our daughter Emma, who was 2 and had his eyes and my stubbornness. I watched David read her a bedtime story, watched her fight sleep even though she was clearly exhausted, watched their small perfect ritual of goodnight kisses, and whispered "I love yous." This was what Ethan had tried to take from me. Not money, not career, not even my life in the literal sense, though he'd managed that too once. He tried to take my belief that I deserved good things. My trust in my own judgment. My ability to imagine a future that wasn't organized around his needs and his cruelty. In one timeline he'd succeeded. In this one he'd failed. And in that failure, I'd discovered something he could never understand. The opposite of being consumed by someone's toxicity isn't being closed off to everyone. It's learning to recognize the difference between love and exploitation, between partnership and parasitism, between jealousy and justified concern. Ethan had spent years calling me jealous while he took everything I had and gave it to her. He'd weaponized that word to discredit my reality, invalidate my feelings, undermine my sense of self. But jealousy requires wanting something someone else has. And I didn't want anything Ethan had. Not in my first life when I was dying beside him. And certainly not in this one where I'd built something real. What I'd wanted was simple. Honesty, respect, partnership, safety. He'd called those expectations jealousy, because acknowledging them as reasonable would have required him to be a decent person. And that was never his goal. His goal was to take. My goal, in this second chance at life, had been to refuse to be taken from. And I'd succeeded. Not just in escaping him, though I'd done that. Not just in bringing him to justice, though I'd done that too. I'd succeeded in reclaiming myself. The woman I was before I met him. The woman I might have become without him. The woman I'd chosen to be despite him. That night, David found me standing in Emma's doorway, watching her sleep. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "About how lucky I am. About how different things could have been. About how grateful I am for every choice I made that led me here. No regrets." I thought about my previous life, About the naive girl who'd believed love meant sacrifice, who'd thought being chosen was more important than choosing herself. None, I said. Not anymore. Because the greatest victory wasn't Ethan's downfall. It wasn't the jail time or the public exposure, or even his death. The greatest victory was standing in this hallway, in this life I'd built, with this family I'd chosen, feeling genuine joy instead of desperate gratitude. Ethan had tried to make me believe I was nothing without him, that my concerns were jealousy, my boundaries were controlling, my needs were unreasonable. But I'd learned the truth. I was everything because of who I chose to be when he was gone. And that truth, that fundamental unshakable knowledge of my own worth, was something no one could ever take from me again.